السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. ربنا زدنا علما. اللهم إنا نسألك الإخلاص والقبول وأن تنفعنا اللهم بما نقول. اللهم أمين. وبعد. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to Tajweed 101 course, simple step-by-step Tajweed course that enables you inshallah to learn how to read the Quran properly inshallah. Welcome, my name is Maghfira and I am an online Quran teacher, and you are watching Maghfira 101, the place to learn, know and understand how to read the Quran properly inshallah and understand its meaning. And today inshallah we are going to move to the next rule of the Noon, Sukun and Tanween, so let's dive into it. Rules for Noon, Sakina and Tanween. We agree that we have 4 different rules for the letter Noon, Sukun and Tanween. And the reason that scholars put these 2 letters under the same category, that they have the same ending of a noon sound, an. So if we have, for example, an or kitaban, both have the same ending, and that's why these 2 letters following the same rules. Number 1, we say that it is al-idghar. Number 2, it is al-idgham, insertion, and next is al-iqlab, and the other one is al-ikhfa, hiding. We did already al-idghar, alhamdulillah, and we finished it, and we practiced how to read the sound of al-idghar with all of the letters that we have. Let's move now to the second one, which is al-idgham, insertion. So, insertion in Noon, Sukun or Tanween, we have to understand 2 things. Number 1, linguistic definition, which is the meaning of the word from the language point of view, and applied definition, which is the definition of that word and how we can use and what we can do on the rule itself. So the linguistic definition, it is inserting or putting something into another one. Okay, I usually make this example as adding books into a bag. And the applied definition, it is inserting the sound of letter Noon Sukun into the sound of the insertion or of the insertion letter when coming after it. So if we assume that letter Noon Sukun is number 1 and number 2 is the letter of insertion coming after it, we may have 2 things. We may have something appear from letter Noon and the second letter, which is showing this the first way or the first type of the insertion of al-idgham, and may have only the letter is the second letter is appear 100%, which is the other type of insertion, as we are going to see in few slides inshallah. Okay, so inserting something to another one, which is inserting the letter into another one. So we may have the letter or the second letter is appear. The second letter is the one who we can just see it and we can hear it. The letters of idgham or of insertion is if we have letter Noon Sukun or Tanween is inserted when it is followed by the word yarmalun, any of the word yarmalun. So ya, ra, mim, lam, waw, and noon. And the reason for this coloring, you're going to see it in the next slide inshallah. So yarmulun, this is the word of the insertion. Lam and ra, it is the insertion without ghunna. The rest of the letters are insertion with nasal sound. With nasal sound mean when we read it, we should do it for 2 counts and we should focus this 2 counts is from nose. Okay? So, the letters of insertion, as you see here, we may have idgham bi ghunna or idgham بغير غنة, insertion without غنة. So the insertion without غنة, it is with letter lam, Noon Sukun with letter lam, or Noon Sukun with letter ra. So when we have letter Noon Sukun or Tanween followed by letter lam or letter ra, it will be idgham بغير غنة or without غنة. If we have ya letter or noon letter or mim or waw, they got in word yanmu, it will be idgham with ghunna, with nasal sound. So this will last for 2 counts. This will last only for the time of the mushaddad letter of letter lam or of letter ra. As we are going to see here, the examples, we are going to have, for example, Noon Sukun followed by ya. So it will be man ya'mal, man ya'mal, like this. Noon Sukun followed by ya, and this is 2 counts, idgham with ghunna. The same for min nafaqatin. The same for that. Noon Sukun followed by Noon Fatha is going to be Noon 2 counts. So it will be min nafaqatin. The same for mim musin. Mim musin. like this. Okay, so this is another idgham as well. The same for mawjida. Mawjida. This is another idgham with ghunna, so it will last for 2 counts. The opposite is if we have nun sukun followed by lam or followed by ra, it will be idgham بغير ghunna, without ghunna. Means that we are going to make the sound of a nun inserted completely to the sound of a lam without making any time for nun. So it will be milladunka, milla. You see, there is no even n articulation point. And take care of that, because some sisters do this when we have a rule for nun or nun sukun or tanween, especially for lam and ra. They say min ladunka, min la, nla, no nla. Nla, by this you break or you separate the insertion. You make these 2 letters are not inserting together. So it is min ladunka. The same for min rabbik, min rabbik, mirra, mirra. You see, there's no any trace or anything from letter noon. So the noon is completely inserted with the sound of letter ra. So this is the insertion with ghunna or without ghunna. We have another classification for the insertion. We may have complete insertion, idghamun kamil, and incomplete insertion, idghamun naqis. What does that mean? Complete insertion means that the first example, if you remember, when I do this, number 1 plus number 2, we may have circle of number 2 completely. This is the complete insertion that I mean, the idgham kamil. The same for when I said that, or the other probability that we may have this sum of 1 with number 2. Okay, so this is the incomplete insertion. So something is appeared from the back or from the noon sound. This is incomplete insertion. Idghamun naqis, incomplete insertion. I will always make the example of this insertion the same as bag and book. Books are inside the bag here. I give the example of letter noon sound as a book, and next letter or the letter of insertion is the bag. If there is nothing appear from the book, like this example, in this case it will be complete insertion. So the book is completely inserted inside the bag, so we cannot even see it. While on the other example, which is incomplete insertion, idghamun naqis, we are having some of the book here appear to us, so we can see few parts of the book, and the bag is completely found or completely visible. Okay, exactly the same example. No books are appearing, so this is complete insertion, idghamun kamil. Like on lam and noon, ra and mim. Lam and ra, which are idgham بغير غنة, and noon and mim, the letters who are already have ghunna with them. These are the complete insertion. Lam and ra and noon and mim, these 2 letters who already have ghunna on them. The same for the incomplete insertion. The 2 letters are left, who are letter ya and letter waw. These are the incomplete insertion. So if we have here complete insertion, we may have complete insertion with ghunna, complete insertion without ghunna. If we try it the same as the previous examples, here we have letter noon. Letter noon here, when it is inserted to the next noon after it, we are going to emphasize this noon, we are going to stress this noon to make it 2 counts with ghunna. So it will be min nafaqatin. So this noon is completely disappeared and completely inserted inside the second noon, so we are not going to have even any haraka on top of this noon. Exactly the same for mim musin. We are not going to make the noon sound at all, so it is complete insertion with mim, and this idgham with ghunna, complete insertion with ghunna, because there's no sound for noon, even there's no haraka on top of it, so we need to make like stress on this mim because of this idgham happening before. So noon inserted completely to the mim, and the result is mim mushaddad for this insertion. The same for milladunka. The noon is completely inserted to the sound of a lam, but there's no ghunna on letter lam already, so we are going to read letter lam mushaddad as emphasized letter, as a stressed letter, without any ghunna left from the noon before. So it's going to be milladunk, like this. The same for mir rabbik. Noon sukun is inserted completely with the letter ra. So as a result for that, there's no haraka for letter noon because we are not going to read it. It is completely inserted to the sound of a ra letter, and we are going to have ra mushaddad here as a result of that insertion. Mir rabbik, like this. So this is the first type of insertion, which is the idghamun kamil, complete insertion. Here, the two letters for incomplete insertion is letter waw and letter ya. So in this case, we are going to have noon sukun followed by the ya, okay, which is idgham naqis. Idgham naqis means something left from letter noon. So how can that happen? Letter ya is originated as no ghunna letter. So this ya, when we read letter ya, we shouldn't make ghunna sound. We should say ayyamam, for example, or ay. Ya letter is not nasal letter. The same for waw. Hawlaini, how, no nasal letter. So when we need to make this insertion, we are going to read as man ya'mal. So we give this ghunna 2 counts, right? From where this ghunna comes? From the noon before. And that's why it's called incomplete insertion. Idghamun naqis. Because this insertion is not happened completely. So the noon sound is not completely inserted. The same for ma wujida. The waw sound is not having by origin a ghunna sound. Okay? But we are going to read it as ma wujida. Ma wujida. 2 counts ghunna. From where this ghunna comes? From the noon before, and that's why we are not going to call it as a complete insertion. We are going to call it incomplete insertion. Okay, so as you see here, wow here and ya here doesn't have a shadda on top of it because we are not going to emphasize this ya and we're not going to emphasize this wow because there is something left from the noon before. And this is very important to take care not to make the idgham with these 2 letters without nasal sound, because I saw some sisters do may ya'mal like this without any nasal sound from nose, which is wrong. The same for mawjida, because these letters already originated as no ghunna letters, so we need to take care about that. When you make the idgham, make sure you are making the nasal sound from nose with the ya letter or with the waw letter. So this is the incomplete insertion, or this is the idghamun naqis, incomplete insertion. Before we go, we have just few notes we need to take care about them. The sign of a complete insertion in the mushaf is by removing the vowel from letter noon and emphasizing the next letter, or like making it mushaddad letter. Like here, min nafaqatin, the same example for today's class, and min musin janafan. Here noon sukun has no haraka on top of it, and we have the next letter shadda. So when you read this, you are going to skip this noon and go directly from the mim to the noon mushaddad because of the idgham. It's going to be minna, like this. And the same for this, mim musin. You're going to skip reading this and going to that. Mainly, if you find a letter, if you have any letter has no haraka, this means that we're not going to read this letter in a clear way. Okay, so here this is the shape for the noon sukun, or how do you know that when you are reading this rule is idgham and it is complete idgham when you see the shadda. So the sign of idgham, complete idgham, is that shadda. If we have tanween, then we are going to find that tanween is written as the following shape, like this. So we may have the tanween on top of each other like this, or we may have the tanween is following like this, and we have the tanween a bit away from each other, the same as ikhfa, as we're going to see it inshallah in few lessons inshallah. Okay, so while on tanween it is done, or the sign on tanween is done by writing the vowel following each other while having shadda on the next letter. So we're going to see this shape, tanween followed by shadda after it, and you're going to see this a bit away from each other, not completely on top of each other, and this is very important. Okay, this is about the sign of a complete insertion in the mushaf, while the sign of an incomplete insertion, as we just said, is done by removing the vowel from letter noon, so no haraka on letter noon and no emphasize on the next letter. While for the tanween, you're going to see the same, the 2 haraka found a bit not identically on top of each other, but there is some shift between the haraka, which is the 2 dhamma, Okay? And the wow has no shadda on it. Sinatun wa. And here the same for maya. There's no shadda on the second letter. So the summary for that, if you find noon sukun has no haraka on top of it and the following letter is shadda, it is complete insertion. If you find there's noon sukun or tanween has no haraka and the second letter have no shadda, in this case it's going to be incomplete insertion, and the same for the waw and ya sound as well. So this is all I have for you today. Hope you find this lesson easy, inshallah. If you have any question, please never hesitate to send me, inshallah. جزاكم الله خيرا for your watching. Catch you the next lesson بإذن الله تعالى. سبحانك اللهم ربنا وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.